Peace, peace. Welcome to the Soulcare Podcast. I am your host, Morgan Kidd, and I am the Assistant Executive Director of the Soulcare Collective. And I am here with the Creative and Executive Director, Omikunle.
Peace, family. So yes, my name is Omikunle Ekundayo. I'm the creator and executive director of the Soulcare Collective. The intention of the Soulcare Collective is to provide Black, African, Indigenous, Latinx, anyone with melanin across the diaspora a space in which they can engage resources to further their spiritual and just wellness journey overall.
Great. So today is our first episode. You are listening to the birth of the podcast, and I'm excited to be here with Omi. And today's topic is kind of just like where the Soulcare Collective kind of began. But I would actually have Omi explain a little bit about just where it began, and then we can start talking about what we kind of joined here today for.
Ashe. So the Soulcare Collective is birthed or inspired by my personal wellness journey. It's inspired by my re-Africanization. It's inspired by my Sankofa experience, by my spiritual journey, by the things that I have been learning, and my desire to want to share this information with other people because we live in a society that kept certain things hidden from us, and the things that we need to fulfill our destiny and uncover our purpose were not readily, given to us because of the Ma'afa and our parents not having access to that information, some of us. So that was the energy behind, or the inspiration behind the Soulcare Collective.
Beautiful. So I think that kind of just leads us into the conversation, because if you would have asked me, let's see, 6 years ago what the Ma'afa was, I would have been like, huh? So I think that is a really good starting point, because it talks about where, at least for me, the foundation of my re-Africanization began, which was at FAMU. And just the teaching and the knowledge and the elders we were surrounded by, and the love we were surrounded by. And so, yeah, I don't know if you want to start just talking about your journey, or like even just prior to going to FAM and then what FAM did.
Yes. Okay, so I think that my journey, it began at Oswego State University. It's a PWI in upstate New York, freezing cold, literally on Lake Ontario, that lake that separates us and Canada. And my journey began on the backdrop of the uprisings and the killing of innocent Black men, children, and women. So Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, so many names, Michael Brown. So there were so many Black people. People were dying, but it seemed to be like an intense amount of Black people that were dying. And it seemed ritualistic, and it was so painful. And so those experiences woke me up as an undergraduate student. And I guess I somewhat became an activist. And that activism led me to the Dream Defenders. And I was just like, wow, I love the Dream Defenders. I'm very much so inspired by them and the work that they're doing. Philip Agnew and just all of them. Danny, Melanie at the time was a Dream Defender. Jabari, so many wonderful people that I'm still friends with to this day and still have connections with. And so the Dream Defenders were born at FAMU, at Florida A&M. University. So I was just like, let me look into this program, or look into this university. Yeah. And I found that they had this wonderful community psychology program, this African-centered psych program. And Intro to Black Psychology is the course that fundamentally changed my life, and it changed my existence. And it also grounded me as an activist, because I was angry when I showed up to FAMU. I was angry that Black people were dying exponentially at the time, and still to this day. And I did not know how to ground that energy, But being a student at FAMU and sitting with the elders who have been doing this work since the 50s and the 60s and who have dedicated their entire life to this work, they looked at me and they said, Omi, because I also changed my name as a student at FAM, and we'll talk about that. But they said, Omi, when we were your age, we thought that we were going to fix everything as well. And we realized that we couldn't. And to think that you can fix the problems of the world is going to lead to mental health problems. So you focus on fulfilling your destiny. You do your portion. You give your portion. And that's all you can do. You sleep good at night, knowing that you woke up and you gave your contribution to the good of the world.
I love that. I love that, because you had the PWI experience in higher education, and you became like fiery because of that. And so because of that fire, you were like, I need an answer. And it seemed like FAMU was the beginning of that answer for you. And that was the same thing for me. It was a little different because I went to FAMU for undergrad. And prior to even enrolling to FAMU in undergrad, I got so much backlash. They were like, oh, don't go to that school. You're gonna turn out, and I'm using air quotes, ghetto, and it's too black, and just, I got it all. And parts of me believed that. Parts of me believed that at that point, and I was like, I still went. And Black psychology was the course. I think a lot of us are so grateful for Black psych, that course at FAMU, and I took it in undergrad and in the graduate program we just spoke about.
Yeah, that's a blessing.
Right. And I will never forget sitting in the chair. Like, I know exactly where I sat in that class every day. I sat in the front of that class that was taught by Dr. Robertson, Jermaine Robertson, who is still at FAMU teaching and guiding the way for so many others. In that class, I left angry. I left confused. I left looking for answers. We learned about two fundamental, I don't even want to say concepts, but just constructs, which is the European worldview and the African worldview, and how one is the antithesis of the other. And learning about these two worldviews, right? You can think about a pair of glasses, and it is your pair of glasses that you are operating out of, that you are seeing this world, that you are feeling this world, that you are surviving in this world. And I learned that the European worldview has dominance, or had dominance, in my life. And so it was like the answer to so many subconscious questions. It was the answer to questions I didn't even know I had. And I think that is where the anger comes from, because it challenged so many things that I knew to be true. My worldview was challenged in that class, because when you talk about the European worldview, you talk about the European survival thrust and the things that is indoctrinated upon Black people, African people in the diaspora. That is why I'm here, why I'm in this space, because it is now my knowledge, it is me waking up in my African mind, knowing that I now must resist this European worldview that I have had for so long.
I'm with you. I definitely just want to take a moment to explain like the intention of Black psychology and why it was so transformative for us. So the reason why it transformed our lives in such a deep way is because in that course, the way Dr. Robertson created it, and well, first of all, I'll begin with the textbook. The textbook was written, or is written, by Baba Kobe KK Kamban Ibashe, who has transitioned. He is now an elevated ancestor. We are so grateful for his contribution to the Black liberation movement. And so we used his book. We call it the Red Book. I know in DC, the Red Book is the Sankofa movement book, but at FAMU, we call Baba Kobe's book the Red Book. And so The Red Book, it is written for any person. It is written for teachers, for aspiring psychologists, for students, for any person who is of African descent that is looking to know themselves and find themselves and understand how the Western culture has impacted them at every level of their existence. And like Morgan said, or as Morgan has said, some of the things you will experience different types of emotions as you process, you process the impact of European culture on you. You wake up every day Black, but we breathe the air of white supremacy domination. We breathe the air of white imperialist masculinity. And so we are impacted by that. And what the book and what the course taught us is we have to be intentional about our resistance. Everything that we do pretty much is an act of resistance. Resting is an act of resistance. Wearing your hair locked, Morgan has her hair locked, that is an act of resistance. I changed my name. My former name was Ashley Freeze. That is the name that was given to me by my parents, but that name did not speak to my destiny. Everything that we do in our African culture or in our Indigenous culture has an intention. And so I received the name that speaks to my destiny. And every time someone says my name, my destiny is amplified. And so we just wanted to just bring it back a little bit and just explain why that course was so impactful, and just to recommend that book. I think it might be out of print, but if you have any connection to the Sunrise in Tallahassee, Florida, I do believe that they sell it.
Thank you for that clarification, because I could have gone on for days just talking about the class, and people are like, well, what are you talking about for real? So just going off of that, just the beginning, and that also just kind of being the second psychology class that I took. So everybody takes intro to psych, and we get introduced to all of these greats, quote unquote, and these foundations of psychology, and all these white men who have these theories, and we know about Freud, and we learn about Skinner and his box and all these experiments, and we probably even heard those in grade school, and now I'm at FAM, and I'm being introduced to the elders of Black Psych, and we have conferences, and I can talk about those conferences for days, because it was just the illumination of knowing myself, and saying and going in those spaces and being reaffirmed as a Black person, um, by elders that look like me. So European culture, they have this they gave themselves this ability to be reaffirmed in the classroom. And we never had that. And for me to have that, for anybody who kind of goes through this program, gets that, because we are reaffirmed by our teachers, our elders, because that's the work that they did.
And that they lived. Not
Yeah.
to cut you off, but
No,
they
yeah.
lived the work. They lived Black psychology. Most of our professors were initiated into the Akan tradition, the Isheshe or the Yoruba tradition. Like, they fully lived the work. They raised African children. They were married to African men and African women, and they fully did the work. And they were in the Tallahassee community. They did not show up at FAMU and the ivory towers of academia. They literally were immersed and integrated into the community, so invested and so concerned with the wellness of the community. And that's our inspiration. That is the motivation, also behind the Soulcare Collective. My introduction to Black psychology is through my undergrad university. So I personally didn't feel like I fit in, that I saw myself in the very white psychology club, just in anything that they created and that they curated for psychology and research. It didn't resonate with me and with other Black students. And so we somehow stumbled upon the Association of Black Psychologists, ABPSI, and we collectively founded the organization. I was founding president, And it was a game changer for us. It was because we didn't just found the organization for the sake of having it on the CVs for graduate school applications. We did it because we needed a space to grow and to learn together. And we would raise money, find money, travel to different schools and universities. And I remember we went to Howard for an ABSI Student Circle conference. And there was a competition. It was my first academic presentation comp ever,
Right.
and I won. I was
Oh
like,
my
oh my God. I was like,
Yes.
this is so great. And my research at the time was on resiliency and
Oh, I
Black
love
men, or
it.
I think Black teenagers. And so even though my undergraduate degree is in Africana Studies, I knew I wanted to study psychology. And so as a McNair scholar, I chose to emphasize my research on Black psychology and on psychology overall. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that my JEGNA at Oswego was a member of the Association of Black Psychology. Her name is Dr. Barbara F. Streets. She is amazing. She was one of the maybe 7 Black, leaders at Oswego State. And then you mentioned the conferences. So there are 3 major conferences that I think we have to acknowledge. One of them being ABSI. ABSI is an amazing introduction and continuation of Reafricanization.
And what does ABSI stand?
Oh, yes, ma'am. So ABSI is the Association of Black Psychologists. And it, as an organization and as an entity that, creates these conferences, it's just such an amazing introduction to your person being re-Africanized or being reintroduced to the morality of African people. And so the workshops, the environment, it is a full experience. There are wonderful workshops. There are drumming, experiences and dances, and everyone is dressed to the nines in their gorgeous African pieces and mudcloth. And there are Black people who are selling their items that they've created. It's a blackety black experience, and you literally leave changed. And I've said this to you before, but when I first went to a conference in 2015, I've never missed one. I've never missed an ABSI national conference until the pandemic, when we didn't have any.
When we talk about the ABSI conferences, it gets closer to home when we talk about Black Psych conferences, which would happen
November.
And remember, I went to FAM undergrad, so I was going to them from undergrad for about 6 years. And in undergrad, I don't think I appreciated them as much, but I still left them with so much knowledge. And grad school, I think, is when I started to realize, you are in such a enriched place, and to be walking amongst, right, Dr. Kobe Kambon was alive at that time, and he actually he sat in on one of my presentations with Dr. Brian Sims, who was my mentor at the time. So just having him in the room and just remembering seeing his face, but Dr. Naeem Akbar, and I'm just coming off the top with names, but these are the giants when it comes to Black psychology. And so the Black Psych conferences, we honored somebody, an elder, a giant in the field of Black psychology, and those were always amazing, always enriching, and going to FAMU from undergrad to graduate school, I was always a part of them. And professors would give extra credit, and so being a part of those conferences were amazing. And one specific conference that will always stand out to me is the conference that honored Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who has transitioned since. She transitioned in January of 2016, and we honored her at FAMU in 2014. And I will never forget, I was able to ask her a question at the conference, and I was I was shaking in my boots because I knew who I was in front of.
Yes.
And it
Queen
was
Mother.
Right. And we could talk all day about her work.
I should.
But if you just want to know a little bit, just go ahead and Google her name.
Yes. The ISIS Papers.
The ISIS Papers.
Yeah. And she also has a lot of there are a lot of interviews with Dr. Frances Cress Welsing on YouTube as well. One of the things that I am trying to inherit from this elder, this Queen Mother, Frances Cress Welsing, is her poise. She did not allow racist white people, ignorant people, or whomever chose to interview her to take her out of her piece. She literally sunk into her piece. She was poised. She had her hand underneath her chin, and she stood 10 toes down on what she was saying because it is scientific. This is a scientist. This is a medical doctor saying, this is the work. This is what I have found. And I don't care what you think, what your granddaddy and your whomever KKK has told to you, it is false and it is not true. Right. And I am so inspired by her.
I absolutely love her. Yes, because I remember watching her interviews, and it is her poise that is like amazing. She does not move. She is not shaken nor moved by these white intimidators.
And they try.
And they very much try. I think
the eugenics person.
Yes.
I can't remember his name either.
Well, his name is not even important.
It's not, because we're not going to speak up that white racist ancestor.
Okay, shoot. But yes, do a quick Google search, and just kind of delve into her work. And you actually might have heard of her work if you've ever seen Baby Boy, and they quoted her work in the beginning of that film. But if you did see that film, Baby Boy, you heard one of her quotes, and yeah.
I'll share a similar experience at the Imhotep conference. So now this is the third African Centered, Black Centered Psychology Conference that we've mentioned. And I had the honor of introducing Baba Kobe KK Kambon before he presented. And Dr. Jermaine Robertson introduced me, and he spoke about my journey and my name change and how proud of my journey he was. And he even said, I'm so-and-so years old and I'm still attached to Jermaine. I ain't letting my name go. And here she is, 18 months in the program, and she is a completely different person, and she has really immersed herself. And so it was truly an honor when Dr. Cambone went to give his presentation and said, everybody, before I even begin, I want you to stop and clap for that young lady and for the work that she's doing. Yeah, so I had chills, and I was just shy and all of the feelings, but he's just always amazing. And whenever I could, as nervous as I was, I always told him, Baba Kobe, you changed my life. Baba Kobe, you changed my life. Like, thank you so much. Thank you for your work, because he's reserved. Baba Kobe is not one of the elders that's like out here and come here back. You know what I mean? He's just like, what you need? All right. Yeah, just, send me an email. But he, so you approach with just that respect, and just respecting his reservation and his introversion and the way he is as a person. So, yeah, mama.
Yeah.
So all in all, I walked into FAMU Ashley Nicole Fries. I walked in Christian. I walked in eating meat, not understanding myself as a multidimensional being, not understanding myself as an African person, not understanding myself as the creator and sustainer of the world. And I left Omikunle Ekundayo. I left knowing who I am, committed to continuing to know who I am. And Black psychology, just in the work and the offerings that we provide at the Soulcare Collective, that is now my activism. That is my resistance. And that is how we continue to expand the work of the Black psychology elders that we mentioned, throughout our discussion today. And I want to talk a little bit about the spiritual side. And we spoke a lot about, academia, Black psychology, but I have to mention Dr. Dana Denard, also known as Baba Kamal, and Jay English, or Clips, Honors, Yoga. He has many names. And it is through my work with those two individuals or beings, souls, humans, that allowed me to ground the energy, ground the anger, and direct it in the right place. So as I said in the beginning, I was an angry activist. Now I'm at peace. It does make me sad, of course, when I hear that another person has been shot or harmed, or more trauma is happening, but it no longer moves me to the place where I can't fulfill my destiny. And they've given me the tools and the resources to do that through meditation, yoga, breath work, reprogramming the mind, self-hypnosis, affirmations, and different things like that. And so FAMU Tallahassee, to me, it is a vortex, a safe haven for Black people. It is magical. It is our Wakanda, honestly and truly, and we love it. We protect it. We often go back, and I'm just so grateful that my Ori guided me to FAMU, because I don't know who I would be if I, didn't go to FAM, and, I would have eventually found my way to my path. But I give thanks. I give thanks for the elders and their generosity with their time and their energy and their commitment. And I do think that we're making them proud. I truly do. I'm grateful. I'm just grateful.
Same. Yeah. So just to summarize something I don't feel like can be summarized, but I'm gonna try my best. FAMU definitely was like my rebirth, and me walking into myself, me remembering myself, and I'm still doing that to this day, and the work doesn't stop. But I'm grateful that I didn't listen to those people who said not to go to FAMU. But like Omi said, eventually I would have walked in this path regardless. But it's just a beautiful thing to say, that FAMU is that girl. And okay. Tallahassee is that girl, and it's so evident of what that place is, for so many people, not just me and Omi. And so I like Omi said, I walked into FAMU somebody totally different than what I walked out of, and there was periods of anger, and there was periods of confusion, like I said, and now I have clarity on where I am right now. Like, I am so grateful for where I am. I'm grateful for Omi because it is because of him why our paths crossed, and I'm grateful for her because I learned from her as well. And her light is shining so bright. And anybody who knows Omi loves Omi. I don't think there's anybody on this planet who can feel a negative feeling towards her. But she also is somebody who knows her destiny, and she is not shy about that. She won't shy away from that. And you can feel that. And so I am on a journey, but I'm so glad that I have so much clarity about who I am as a Black woman, and how I can navigate this space, not angry, but fulfilling why I'm here. And it will be easy to be angry. And so I often say my existence is resistance. And yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it on that.
Sure.
So we want to extend that this is something that you could also experience through the Soulcare Collective, because as you can see, this is the foundation. You know, our personal stories, um, they're our stories, but you can also receive this re-Africanization, this light, this remembrance through the Soulcare Collective, and that's why we're here. We serve Black and Indigenous people, who are interested in that work and who want to be committed to that work. And also, we want to reach people. We want to reach those people who may not even know that this is what it is they need. You know, and we want to be able to say, there's a reason why you're here.
I also want to extend the invitation to our Latinx brothers and sisters who acknowledge that their ancestors are of African descent. We just want it to be a comfortable space for whomever chooses to engage with us. We do reserve the right to only engage African, Indigenous, and Latinx folks. There are some practitioners who do work with white clients, but we wanted to make it clear that we prioritize working with those who need our help the most and the training that we have, because we also know that there are so many Black and Latinx and Indigenous psychologists that were trained by white people that didn't have the double training that we had. Because at FAMU, we had to learn both. We should have left with 2 degrees. We learned that we had to learn about the European psych, because FAMU prepares you for PhDs. FAMU literally produces the most Black PhDs out of any other HBCU in the country. And you can come fight me, Fisk, Howard. I'm just playing. It's all love. But
Say that.
I just had to let it be known, you know? And so, yes, we are currently accepting new clients. We also wanted to extend the invitation to our community to engage with us for mental wellness, for holistic health and wellness. So we also offer energy medicine, we offer herbal therapy, we offer spiritual guidance by way of a medium, by way of divination. We also offer retreats. We have meditations that are free and available on YouTube. We are reviving our blog, so there will be free information in our library, which is what we call our blog. And we invite you to follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And we're just grateful that you chose to listen to us and to just be engaged in our life and in our story. And we thank you for supporting us. But the majority of the offerings that we provide are at no cost to the community unless indicated. But we do encourage those of us who can to donate $5 a month on a subscription basis. It makes such a difference. It truly helps our practitioners who are fee-for-service workers, which means if their clients book a session and they do not show up to that session, then they do not get paid. It also helps our practitioners who may be on maternity leave or have a leave of absence, whatever the case may be. We want to be able to support the collaborators and the practitioners as would any other full service company. And so we're asking the community for support. The Soulcare Collective follows a social entrepreneurship model. We aren't about just strictly gaining capital. We offer an affordable mental health program in which folks can engage mental wellness services for $1 a minute, or about $35 for 30 minutes, 50 for a 45-minute session, and then 65 for a 60-minute session. That is such a love offering. There are practitioners who are charging $120, $300, and upwards of $500. And so we do this work because we care. We want more people to have access to the resources that we are developing and learning about. And so because we have taken a pay cut, we lovingly ask if you are able to subscribe to our subscription of donations for $5 a month.
Thank you, Omi.
Thank you, sis.
Thank
this was
you.
Amazing.
This is absolutely amazing. And this is just the beginning. And we look forward to having you guys. Well, we look forward to being in your speakers one more time on the following episode. So make sure you are tuned in.
And we'll see y'all next time.
Peace.